Nadia had missed them terribly. The voices, the laughter, the simple warmth of companionship. She hoped her friends were well. Today her story was different, compelling, and she was sure it would captivate anyone who heard it. She invited her listeners to stay until the end and to subscribe, to press the bell icon, and share in her journey. Nadia was 32, a high school English teacher in the quiet market town of Ashby-de-la-Zouch, nestled in the heart of the English Midlands. Married for some years, her husband was away, working overseas in a contract that lasted 5 years. He'd been gone for 2, and 3 more years still stretched ahead. They had no children, a subject delicate and painful, given their age and the difficulties they faced. Despite the challenges, Nadia was a vision of youthful energy and poise. Anyone who met her would guess she was barely in her early 20s. She took meticulous care of herself, her dark hair always perfectly styled, a light shimmer of makeup highlighting her expressive hazel eyes. Today she wore a soft cream blouse that clung gently to her slender frame, paired with a flowing navy skirt that brushed just above her knees. On her feet were elegant but sensible nude heels, and a delicate silver necklace caught the light whenever she moved. She carried herself with a quiet confidence that made heads turn, but always with a touch of modesty. The kind of woman who could make a room pause, not with loud declarations, but with an unspoken allure. Her life was practical, rooted in routine. Teaching, tutoring, household chores. She gave private lessons to local teenagers, both boys and girls, charging a modest fee. Not nearly the sum some tutors demanded, but enough to keep her busy and engaged. It was during one of these tutoring arrangements that her life began to shift. One rainy afternoon, Nadia sat in the snug sitting room of her next-door neighbor Laura, her closest friend and confidant in Ashby. The room smelled faintly of Earl Grey and freshly baked scones. Laura, a vibrant woman with a cascade of auburn curls and a cheerful freckled face, brought up a subject that would change everything. "Oh, Nadia," Laura said, stirring her tea thoughtfully, "you tutor both boys and girls, right?" "Well, my nephew Matthew, he's struggling terribly with his studies. He's 18 but falling behind. I was wondering if you might take him on. I'd cover whatever fee you want. Consider it a gift." Nadia hesitated. It wasn't about the money. Matthew was known to be a bit of a handful, a lad with a reputation for laziness and trouble. Laura's concern was genuine, but Nadia's own experiences made her wary. Still, she agreed to give it a try, promising to arrange her schedule so Matthew could come over for half an hour or an hour each day. The lesson started at Nadia's home, a cozy flat on the 5th floor of a modest Victorian building, overlooking the quiet street below. Laura's apartment was on the 3rd floor, just 2 flights beneath. Matthew arrived promptly on the first day, knocking lightly on Nadia's door. "Hi, Miss Bradley," he said with a grin, using the formal title she insisted upon. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with unruly chestnut hair and a mischievous sparkle in his green eyes. His casual jeans and hoodie contrasted sharply with Nadia's neat, professional appearance, but there was something about him, a raw energy, a restless charm, that intrigued her. "Come in, Matthew," she said, stepping aside. The first few lessons were, frankly, a battle. Matthew's mind wandered, his attention flitting like a restless butterfly. Nadia found herself more distracted than he was, caught off guard by the subtle glances he threw her way. He wasn't just a student. He was a young man awakening, and she was painfully aware of it. "Looks like you're going to be the death of me," she joked one afternoon, trying to mask the fluttering in her chest. "You're more interested in my shoes than Shakespeare." Matthew laughed, a deep, genuine sound. "Can't help it. I've never seen such fancy shoes in a classroom before." Their conversations drifted beyond schoolwork. Matthew talked about his dreams of starting a small business, his love of football, his frustrations with school. Nadia found herself drawn to his youthful enthusiasm, his candid honesty. It reminded her of the life she once imagined with her husband before he'd left. One day, as Nadia prepared a snack of fresh fruit, slices of watermelon, ruby-red pomegranate seeds, and juicy peach wedges, Matthew's eyes lit up. "Where did you get this fruit? It's different from anywhere else," he said, biting into a slice of watermelon with relish. Nadia smiled. "Ashby's market has the best produce. You just have to know where to look." He chuckled, a little wistfully. "I'm starving, I haven't eaten properly all day." "Well, that won't do," Nadia said, offering him more fruit. As the days passed, their lessons became more relaxed, their rapport deepening. Matthew joked that Nadia's fruit spreads were better than his mom's cooking. A comment that made her laugh, cheeks tinged with a flush she tried to hide. But beneath the surface a tension grew, an unspoken awareness of boundaries, desire, and the consequences of crossing them. Nadia found herself caught between duty and temptation, between the life she had and the life she longed for. One evening, after Matthew left, Nadia sat alone by her window, the glow of street lamps casting shadows across her thoughtful face. She sensed a storm brewing inside her, a secret that could unravel everything. And just then her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. *, be careful who you trust. Not everything is as it seems. *, the word sent a chill down her spine. Who was watching? And what secrets were waiting to be uncovered? The story had only just begun. The following morning dawned gray and misty, typical of an early autumn day in Ashby de la Zuc. Nadia woke to the soft patter of rain against her bedroom window. Despite the cozy comfort of her well-appointed flat, a sense of unease lingered in the air, as if the previous night's cryptic message had not yet released its grip on her mind. She dressed with care, selecting a fitted burgundy blouse that hugged her slender waist, paired with a charcoal pencil skirt that accentuated the curve of her hips. A pair of black suede ankle boots completed the ensemble, and her delicate gold bracelet jingled softly on her wrist as she moved. Her dark hair fell in gentle waves around her shoulders, and a hint of rose-tinted lipstick gave her lips a subtle allure. Nothing too bold, but enough to make her feel confident as she prepared for the day ahead. At a tea breakfast, Nadia pondered the message again. Who could have sent it? Was it a prank or a warning? She resolved not to let it distract her from her responsibilities, especially not today. When Matthew was due for his lesson at by 10 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Nadia opened the door to find Matthew standing there, wearing his usual casual attire. A faded green hoodie stretched over his broad shoulders, dark jeans and scuffed sneakers. His messy chestnut hair looked even more tousled than usual, as if he had run a hand through it several times already that morning. "Morning, Miss Bradley," he said with a grin that didn't quite reach his eyes today. "Morning, Matthew," Nadia replied, stepping aside to let him in. "You look a bit distracted. Everything all right?" Matthew shrugged, dropping his backpack by the door. "Yeah, just a rough night. Fell asleep late watching old football matches. Classic distraction for a teenager," Nadia teased lightly, though her voice carried a note of concern. They settled in the living room, where Nadia had laid out textbooks, notebooks, and a fresh pot of tea. The lesson began as usual, but Nadia noticed Matthew's attention wavered more than before. His eyes kept drifting to her, and she caught herself imagining what it would be like if the distance between them shrank, if the formalities melted away like morning mist. "Focus, Matthew," she said gently, masking the flutter in her chest. "We've got a lot to cover before your mock exams," he smiled sheepishly. "I'm trying, I swear." As the lesson progressed, Nadia found herself watching him more than the pages of the textbook. There was something intoxicating about his presence. The way his broad shoulders relaxed when he laughed, the easy confidence beneath his casual demeanor. She caught a glimpse of a small scar just above his wrist, half hidden beneath the sleeve of his hoodie, and wondered about its story. At one point, Matthew reached for a slice of watermelon from the plate Nadia had prepared. The sweet, juicy flavor seemed to revive him, and he ate with an appetite that reminded her of the first lesson. "You're really hungry today," Nadia remarked, a teasing smile tugging at her lips. "Yeah, well," Matthew said, cheeks flushed. "It's hard to study on an empty stomach." The atmosphere between them grew more relaxed, layered with unspoken tension and the gentle hum of shared secrets. After the lesson ended, Matthew lingered, sitting on the edge of the sofa. "Can I be honest with you, Miss Bradley?" he asked, his voice low. "Of course," Nadia said, heart pounding. "I don't really want to be here doing schoolwork. I'm thinking about other things, starting a business with my mates, maybe something in the food industry. But my mom's always on me to get good grades." Nadia nodded, understanding the pull between youthful dreams and familial expectations. "It's important to have a plan, Matthew. Education is a foundation. Without it, everything else becomes unstable." He looked at her, eyes searching. "You make it sound so easy." "Nothing worth having ever is," she replied softly. As he stood to leave, Matthew hesitated. "Thanks for today. You're different from other teachers." Nadia smiled, a blush rising to her cheeks. "I try." When the door closed behind him, Nadia felt a mix of relief and longing. She poured herself another cup of tea and sat by the window, Watching the rain blur the outlines of the street lamps, the message from the previous night echoed in her mind. Was someone watching her? Was Matthew's presence in her life a blessing, or a prelude to trouble? Later that afternoon, Nadia received a call from her husband, David. His voice, warm but weary, filled her with both comfort and sorrow. "How are you holding up?" he asked. "Managing," Nadia replied, forcing a smile she knew he couldn't see. "That will get through this, Nadia." Just a little longer. She closed her eyes, clutching the phone. The distance between them felt like an ocean, but she clung to the hope that their reunion was on the horizon. As night fell, Nadia's thoughts were interrupted by a sudden knock at the door. Cautious, she peered through the peephole but saw no one. When she opened the door, a small envelope lay on the welcome mat. Inside was a note, written in hurried scrawl, "Trust no one. Matthew isn't who he appears to be." Her breath caught. The room seemed to shrink around her. Who had sent this? And what did it mean? The quiet town of Ashby de la Zouch suddenly felt like a labyrinth of secrets, each corner hiding shadows, each smile masking a lie. Nadia realized her life was about to change forever. The next few days passed in a haze of tension and uncertainty. Nadia found herself caught between the familiar rhythm of her daily life and the unsettling whispers of doubt planted by that mysterious note. She kept her composure at school, delivering lessons with her usual blend of warmth and precision, but beneath the surface, her mind spun webs of suspicion and fear. Her tutoring sessions with Matthew continued, though now she studied him as much as the textbooks. He was the same restless, charming young man as before, with that easy grin and disarming honesty. Yet, every now and then, his eyes flickered with something darker, an elusive shadow that made Nadia's skin prickle. One afternoon, as rain hammered against the windows of her flat, Matthew arrived late, dripping wet from the drizzle. His hoodie clung to his broad frame, soaked and heavy. Nadia handed him a towel, her fingers brushing his wrist briefly. "Noticing again the faint scar? Rough day?" she asked, pouring 2 cups of tea. Matthew shrugged, a wry smile tugging at his lips. "You could say that. Had a run-in with some lads from my football team. Nothing serious." Nadia's eyes narrowed slightly. "Anything I should know about?" He shook his head quickly. "Nah. Just some friendly rivalry." As the lesson began, Nadia's focus wavered. The textbook seemed dull compared to the storm brewing just outside and the storm she felt growing inside her. She tried to concentrate on the grammar exercises, but Matthew's presence was magnetic, pulling her attention away. During a break, Matthew leaned forward, lowering his voice. "You know, Miss Bradley, you're not like the other teachers. You make me want to try." Nadia's heart skipped. She cleared her throat. "That's good to hear. Maybe you'll surprise everyone this term." He smiled, but there was a glint in his eye that unsettled her. "Maybe. Or maybe I'm just good at hiding things." Later that evening, Nadia sat alone, the glow from her desk lamp casting long shadows. She pulled out her phone and reread the message. Trust no one. Matthew isn't who he appears to be. Who would send such a warning? And why? The following day, she decided to visit Laura, hoping for some clarity. Laura's cozy kitchen was a sanctuary from the storm clouds gathering in Nadia's mind. The scent of freshly brewed coffee and cinnamon biscuits filled the air. "Nadia," Laura said, concern creasing her freckled face, "you look like you've seen a ghost." "I got a strange message," Nadia confessed, "about Matthew. Says he's not who he seems. Do you know anything?" Laura's eyes darted away for a moment before she spoke. "Well, Matthew's family has had their share of troubles. His father disappeared years ago under mysterious circumstances, and his mum's been very protective. But I never thought." "Thought what?" Nadia pressed. "That he might be involved in something dangerous. There have been rumors about some unsavory friends he keeps. Nothing confirmed, though." Nadia felt a chill. The boy she'd been slowly trusting, maybe even feeling something more for, had a past clouded in shadows. Determined to uncover the truth, Nadia decided to do some digging herself. She visited the local library, poring over old newspaper clippings and public records. She learned that Matthew's father, a small-time businessman, had vanished without a trace 5 years ago. Some whispered of debts and shady deals, but nothing concrete. Back home, the phone rang. It was David, her husband. "We need to talk," he said, voice low and urgent. "I'm coming home next month. Things are changing. Nadia's heart leapt with hope and fear. Could their fragile world survive the secrets and lies threatening to engulf it? That night, as she lay in bed, a shadow moved outside her window. She sat up, heart pounding, but saw nothing but the empty street bathed in moonlight. The mystery deepened. Matthew's true nature remained hidden, and Nadia's own desires and fears tangled into a dangerous web. And deep in the dark corners of Ashby de la Zouk, someone was watching, waiting for the right moment to make their move. The following week unfolded like a slow-burning fuse, each day adding more tension to Nadia's already frayed nerves. She moved through her routine with mechanical precision, teaching lessons at Ashby High School by day and tutoring Matthew in the evenings, all while wrestling with the gnawing uncertainty that had taken root in her heart. On a crisp Thursday afternoon, the sky a pale wash of winter gray, Nadia prepared for Matthew's lesson with a mixture of anticipation and dread. She chose a deep emerald green blouse that clung gently to her curves, paired with a high-waisted black skirt that ended just above her knees, revealing slender legs clad in sheer black tights. Her black ankle boots clicked softly on the hardwood floor as she arranged her textbooks and notes on the coffee table. A silver pendant, shaped like a delicate leaf, hung from her neck, catching the light as she moved, a subtle symbol of resilience she liked to wear when she needed strength. When Matthew arrived, he seemed distracted, his usual playful smile replaced by a shadow of seriousness. His chestnut hair was messier than usual, his green eyes darting around as if searching for something unseen. He wore a dark navy sweater over a crisp white shirt, the collar peeking out in contrast, and his jeans were scuffed and worn, telling tales of restless evenings. "Hey," Nadia greeted, trying to sound casual. "Hey," Matthew replied, voice low. They settled into the lesson, but today the words felt hollow. Nadia noticed Matthew's fingers tapping nervously on the table, a rhythm out of sync with the calm she tried to maintain. "Is everything okay?" she asked gently. Matthew hesitated, then sighed. "I need to tell you something. Something I should have said before." Nadia's heart quickened. She set her pen down, giving him her full attention. "My dad. He wasn't just some businessman who disappeared. He owed money to some very dangerous people, and they're still looking for me." The room seemed to close in. Nadia's mind raced, picturing shadowy figures lurking in the corners of her quiet flat, threatening the fragile peace she had fought to build. "I didn't want to drag you into this," Matthew continued, eyes earnest. "But I trust you, and I need your help." Nadia swallowed hard, the weight of his confession settling heavily in her chest. The boy she thought she knew was caught in a web far darker than she imagined. Before she could respond, the phone rang sharply, slicing through the silence. Nadia glanced at the caller ID. An unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. "Hello?" A distorted voice whispered, "You don't know who you're dealing with. Stay out of this or you'll regret it." The line went dead. Nadia's hands trembled as she replaced the receiver. Matthew looked at her, his face paled. "We're in deeper than I thought," he said quietly. In the days that followed, Nadia felt eyes on her everywhere. At school, in the grocery store, even in her own flat. Strange messages appeared on her answering machine, cryptic and threatening. The boundaries between her safe world and the dangerous unknown blurred. Yet, amid the chaos, an unexpected connection blossomed between Nadia and Matthew. Their shared secrets forged a bond, fragile but real. One evening, as they reviewed a particularly tricky passage in a novel, their hands brushed. The touch sent a jolt through Nadia, a reminder of the forbidden desires simmering beneath the surface. She looked up, meeting Matthew's gaze. There was a question there, a silent plea, but before anything could be said, a sudden crash echoed from the hallway. The front door rattled violently as if someone was trying to force it open. Nadia's heart pounded. Matthew moved to the door but stopped, eyes wide with fear. "Who's there?" Nadia called, voice trembling. No answer, only the sound of hurried footsteps fading into the night. The silence that followed was heavier than any noise. Nadia knew their lives had changed forever, and somewhere, in the shadows beyond the street lamps, a figure watched and waited. The mystery was far from over. The uneasy calm that settled over Nadia's flat after the attempted break-in was like a thick fog, wrapping itself around every corner and seeping into her thoughts. She paced the length of the living room, her heels clicking sharply against the polished wooden floor, a nervous rhythm that matched the rapid beating of her heart. The night outside was cold and silent, the street lamps casting long, flickering shadows that seemed to dance just beyond the curtains. Nadia's emerald blouse, which had felt empowering earlier in the day, now clung uncomfortably to her skin. Her black skirt, tailored but modest, brushed the tops of her knees as she moved, an elegant armor that felt inadequate against the creeping fear. She toyed with the silver leaf pendant around her neck, a talisman she had always believed brought her strength. Tonight, it felt like a fragile thread in a storm. Matthew sat on the edge of the sofa, his usually confident demeanor shattered. His dark navy sweater hung loosely over his broad shoulders, and the crisp white shirt beneath was wrinkled, as if he had run a hand through his hair repeatedly. The scar on his wrist caught the dim light, a silent testament to the battles he fought, both seen and unseen. "I don't know who wants to scare us," he admitted quietly, voice low and tense. "But it's serious." Nadia met his gaze, eyes steady despite the turmoil inside. "We can't let fear control us. We need a plan." He nodded, swallowing hard. "I've been thinking about going to the police, but my mum warns me against it. Says it'll only make things worse." A bitter laugh escaped Nadia's lips. "Seems like everyone's advice is to keep quiet and hope for the best. Not exactly helpful." They spent the next hour mapping out possibilities, safe places, people they could trust, ways to protect themselves. But the more they talked, the clearer it became. They were tangled in something far bigger than either had imagined. As the clock ticked past midnight, Nadia felt a strange mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. Despite the danger, the shared secret forged a bond between her and Matthew that was difficult to ignore. When their hands brushed again, this time lingering just a moment longer, a spark ignited, a forbidden connection that both thrilled and terrified her. She quickly withdrew, cheeks flushing beneath the soft glow of the lamp. "We can't." "Not now," she murmured. Matthew's green eyes searched hers, questioning and vulnerable. "I know." The fragile thread of understanding held them together, even as the shadows outside seemed to close in. The next morning brought no relief. Nadia awoke to the sharp trill of her phone. It was a text from an unknown number. "Leave Ashby before it's too late." She stared at the message, a cold shiver running down her spine. Was it a threat? A warning? Who was watching her? At school the day dragged. Nadia's students sensed her distraction, whispering and stealing glances. She wore a simple white blouse and navy slacks, her hair pulled back in a loose bun, a practical choice that only highlighted the tension in her slender neck. During lunch, Laura caught her gaze across the staff room. The concern in her friend's eyes was unmistakable. "Are you sure you're okay?" Laura asked softly. Nadia forced a smile. "Just tired." But the weight of secrets was growing heavier by the hour. That evening, Matthew arrived as usual. His usual banter was replaced by a grim seriousness. He handed Nadia a folded newspaper clipping. "There was a break-in at my mum's house last night," he said quietly. "They trashed the place, looking for something." Nadia's breath caught. The danger was no longer abstract. It had found them, invaded their worlds. She looked at Matthew, the young man caught between past shadows and uncertain futures. The fear, the attraction, the secrets, they swirled together, creating a storm neither was prepared to face. As the wind howled outside, rattling the windows, Nadia realized that the story they were living was far from over. And somewhere, hidden in the darkness, the puppeteer pulled the strings tighter. The next move would change everything, and the question remained. Who could they really trust?